Hi beautiful, my name is Mina. Welcome to my channel Goodreads, and today we're going to be talking about the best books I've ever read according to Goodreads. The way that I'm doing this is I'm just picking some of the highest rated books on my Goodreads read section, and I'm going to talk to you guys about them, and I'm going to say whether I think that they deserve the really high rating they have or not. So let's get into it. We're gonna go from high to highest. So in the number 10 spot, we have Real by Kennedy Ryan, and Real has a 4.5 star rating on Goodreads, and I definitely think that it deserves to be a full 5 stars, to be honest, because it is just that good. Real is this really amazing like workplace forbidden romance between an actress and the director of her like new breakout film. It's a really wonderful romance that is just so well developed. The characters are so amazing. It has disability rep. I love the romance between our two protagonists, Nevaeh and Canon. Like, they are just the best couple I have ever read about. Ever. I'm so serious. I love them so much. And I also would say that I think that it's just such a very well constructed narrative, because we do get sneak peeks into the screenplay that they're working on and filming, and I feel like it all is just so well integrated into Nevaeh and Canon's like real love story, and it just was so good. Like, everything about it was amazing, pitch perfect. So I think that it definitely deserves the 4.5 star rating that it has, and in fact I think it deserves a little bit higher because it's just that good in my opinion. So then we have Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the third book in the Daevabad trilogy, and I love the Daevabad trilogy. You guys know this, or maybe you don't. The Daevabad trilogy used to be so closely tied into my brand, but I haven't really talked about it all that much since finishing the series in 2020, but I just absolutely love the Daevabad trilogy, and I think that for me personally, Empire of Gold was like the perfect ending for this series, just because this series has such wonderful like mythology, and I think that the mythos that is explored here, like the Jinn mythology, is so interesting. And throughout the series we get kind of these little hints and indications about these people called the Marid, and this like species called the Marid, and the Marid were just so fascinating, and I loved hearing these little snippets about them throughout the series. And then in this book we finally get to see like the world of the Marid open up to us, and I love that so much, and I just think it was so well done. I do think it's a little bit of a departure from the vibes of the first two books in the series, but it still was perfect. It was the perfect way to bring the story home in my opinion, and I just loved it so much. So this has a 4.5 1-star rating, and I think that it absolutely deserves every single bit of it. It's so good. Also, it's pretty interesting to me to see that a lot of the people who were diehard fans of the beginning of the series really ended up hating this one, but this is like my favorite one out of the whole series. I loved it so much. Like, yeah, it ate down, so we love to see it. Then we have Sweat and Soap Volume 9. So I will say that already 3 books into this list, we have 2 books that are a part of a series, and I think that that makes a lot of sense, because the further you get into a series, it's kind of assumed that people who weren't enjoying it, they're going to stop at the first book or the second book. So it makes sense that the further you get into a series, the higher the average rating is going to be on Goodreads. So it makes perfect sense to me that Sweat and Soap Volume 9 has a 4.55 star rating, and I think it deserves it. It's a really awesome volume. Sweat and Soap is this workplace romantic comedy about these two really awkward characters like meeting in a very strange way and falling in love, and the whole manga is like, you know, different stages of their relationship. And volume 9 was just a really great like emotional volume where we get to see them like moving through life as a couple and dealing with nothing major is happening in their relationship necessarily, but the way that they work together as a team to like handle issues that are happening outside of themselves. Like, our main protagonist, Isako, like, she's having some emotional issues, dealing with some rough stuff from her past, and it just was so beautiful to see how Natori, like, you know, how he supports her and loves her and stuff. It's just all very cute, and I love them so much. It was just so good. Definitely an amazing volume. I think it deserves the star rating that it has. It's just absolutely incredible, and I would highly recommend it if you are a person looking for a romance manga series. Like, you should read Sweat and Soap. I highly recommend it. It is a little bit weird, but you gotta stick with it, and once you stick with it, it's worth it. So the next one that we have, also a part of a series, is The Hatter's Game by Cole McCade, and this is the 13th book in the series, so bear with me. This is a part of the Criminal Intention series by Cole McCade, and the Criminal Intention series is kind of like a serialized like police procedural. So every book in the series is meant to be kind of like a single episode of like a show like Criminal Minds or Law and Order or something like that. So it is very serialized in that way, and each book is kind of called an episode, and each section has like seasons, and the seasons have their own arcs. Like, it's a whole thing, but I think it's really good if you are a person who likes police procedurals. And this is a like slow burn romance between two partners, Song Jae and Malcolm, and it's like a slow burn romance between them, but it's also like this really kind of creepy, you know, police procedural. They're solving crimes together and falling in love, and there's lots of like side characters that are also falling in love. It's really interesting. There's a non-binary character. I loved them so much. It's just a really cool series in my opinion. I haven't read it in a really long time. I think the last book that I read from it was maybe in like 2019, so a long time ago at this point, but I did really love the series at one point, and I think that it definitely makes sense why it has a 4.56 star rating. This is the final book in season 1, and yeah, like, it makes sense why it's highly rated. One, because it's very good, but also because it is like the 13th book in a series, and I feel like if you weren't feeling the series by book 1, 2, or 3, then you definitely are not there for book 13. So it makes sense why it has the rating it does. Then we have Spy Family Volume 4, another one in a series. This is a really fun family of convenience story where we have this spy, and he is doing a secret mission. For this mission, he needs to have a family, so he recruits a fake wife for himself, and he adopts a daughter named Anya. Anya is a telepath, so she knows that he's a spy, but because she's a little girl, she kind of doesn't fully understand everything that's going on, but it makes for a lot of like really fun hijinks and like wacky comedy. And then we have his fake wife named Yor, who is an assassin, and she's keeping this a secret, but Anya also knows that her mom is an assassin, and it's really fun and really cool, and I like it a lot. And volume 4 is definitely the strongest volume in the whole series to me, and it has a 4.6 star rating, and I think it absolutely deserves it. This one is the most interesting. I think it's very like sweet and adorable, and has a lot of those wacky hijinks that all the other volumes do, but it also moves the plot forward, and we get to see a lot more of the spy aspect of the spy family that's going on, so I enjoyed that one. Then we have The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie. This is the 3rd book in the Age of Madness series, and the Age of Madness is like a sequel trilogy to the First Law trilogy, and so yeah, it's incredible. This one is also a 4.6 star. I won't say too much about it because the First Law world is really difficult to describe. It's about this fantasy country called the Union, and the Union is basically undergoing its industrial revolution, and so it's kind of about the ramifications of the industrial revolution. There's kind of like this workers uprising going on, and I think that this is like one of the best fantasy series I've ever read, ever. It's so good, and I definitely think that it is a worthy conclusion to a really incredible series. So I think that it absolutely deserves everything that it has. In fact, I kind of think it deserves to be a little bit more highly rated because it is just iconic. And the way that the story pans out, I feel like I was constantly shook and shaken by it. I did not necessarily expect the places that the story ends up, and I just really love the characters in this series so much, particularly Rika. Rika is the baddest bitch to ever be on page. Like, she is that girl, and I think that more people need to be reading the First Law series literally just so that they can meet Rika, because she is, as I said, that girl. Okay, so the next book on the list is Determining Possession by Christina C. Jones, and this one has a 4.68 star rating, which is very high, very high, and I think it absolutely deserves it. This is a friends to lovers workplace romance, and it's incredible. It's also kind of a sports romance, so it has a lot of things going for it. So we're basically following these two characters named Will and Ramsey, and so they are co-hosts on this sports news channel kind of, and they're co-hosts, but they're also ex-athletes. Wilhelmina, she was a very famous track star, and Ramsey, he used to be a quarterback, I believe. And so yeah, they're co-hosts on this show, but they're also kind of best friends. Will, she gets out of a shitty relationship, and I don't want to say that Ramsey swoops in like he's been waiting in the wings this whole time, but this kind of sort of what happens. And yeah, it's just a romance about them, but it's a very fun friends to lovers romance. I thought that their friendship felt very organic and fun and flirty, and I think that shift from friendship to love felt very realistic, and I just love their relationship so much, and they're so fun, and Ramsey is so sexy, and it just was all very good, all very good, all very enjoyable. And I definitely think that it deserves every inch of the praise that it's getting on Goodreads, because it's just that good. It really is that good. And I definitely think that if you're someone who enjoys sports romances, this one is interesting because both of the characters in them are athletes, which I don't feel like happens as frequently in sports romance as I would like. I think most of them tend to be like the guy's an athlete and the girl's just, you know, a Mary Jane Sue, which I really like the fact that Will had her own very successful sports career and her own like sports legacy. Like, that was really cool to read about. So yeah, I love this one. Highly recommend it if you have not read it already, but I recommend this book all the time, so you probably already have. All right, so we're getting to the top 3. So in the number 3 slot, we have Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, and this has a 4.69 star, and I think that it deserves to be a full 5, but that's just me, because Jade Legacy is one of the best fantasy endings that I've ever read. I don't think that, I feel like what makes this book for me one of the best fantasy trilogy endings that I've ever experienced, and why I feel like it deserves a full 5 star, is because of how ambitious it was. I think that Fonda Lee really undertook like a crazy amount of work to make this finale happen, and the fact that this finale, it spans like a 20-year period after already doing a time skip from where the second installment in the series ends. And so I feel like being able to navigate the time skip as well as the whole narrative itself spanning like 20 something years, she is so perfectly able to bring together all of the different storylines, all the different characters. They're all so well developed and nuanced. And that as well, she's introducing new characters because we're getting to know the new generation of the Cole family, and she just does all of that so well, while also wrapping up this very epic in scope, very political narrative. And I just think that it, like, her pen cannot be underestimated, because she did what she needed to do, and she slid, you know, like she did what she needed to do, and it was amazing, and I love this so much. So I think that it actually deserves to be a little bit higher than this. Like, for me, it's giving a full 5 star, but that's neither here nor there. So then we have I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, and this one has a 4.73 star, and I think that it definitely deserves it. This is an incredible memoir. It is really heartbreaking, but it's so well told, and I think that the way that Jeanette really approaches a lot of these really difficult topics in her life and navigates all of these different moments and kind of strings them together to show how her traumas from her childhood have informed certain things about her adult life, her struggles with kind of getting help and healing and all of that kind of stuff. I just feel like it's so well done, and in such a compact narrative. It's really short. I think it's only like 270-ish pages. Like, it's a very short book, but it was just so incredibly impactful. It was a great read, and I think that if you are planning to read it, I would highly recommend listening to it on audiobook. Shout out to Libro FM for my copy. You can check out the link in my description for Libro FM. I'm pretty sure it should be like a free trial, so maybe you could check it out. Link will be in my description. But yeah, like, I just think it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. One of the best memoirs I've ever read, and I would highly recommend it. In the top spot, which is very interesting to me, is 2 Minute Warning by Alexandra Warren, and this has a 4.75 star rating. This is a sports romance, and it was very cute. I can't say personally that it would be like my highest rated book ever. I think I'd probably give it like a 3.75 star, because it was really cute, really low angst romance, and I think the relationship between the two characters was really sweet, but it wasn't like my favorite book that I've ever read. I definitely wouldn't rate this book like higher than Real, personally, or like Determining Possession, but I do think that it was a very good book. So yeah, like, I liked it. It was cool, but would it be at the top of my list personally? No. I would recommend it though. If you are a sports romance kind of girly, I think you'd really appreciate it. So yeah, that is some of the best books that I've ever read according to Goodreads. So yeah, this was cool. This was fun. I had a good time filming this. I hope you had a good time watching it. And thank you so much for tuning in. So hopefully I'll see you in my next one. Bye, you guys.